I've really been stuck recently. I've kind of been asking myself what I live for. I don't play any sports. I'm not a huge member in any communities. I don't really have any dreams or aspirations in life besides to travel. And I'm not dead set on a college or a future job one day. So a lot of people may look at my life and say this kid is living without meaning. Now, I honestly agree with them a lot of times. I feel like my life has no meaning, I live a life of absurdity. There is no reason for me to continue on, but yet I still do, I still make my bed every single day. I still brush my teeth, I still get up, I still go to school, and I still continue on living. And I don't know, a lot of the time I feel like a tiny little fish. And this fish, all he's ever known is his community. And he lives in this huge reef. And he's always lived in the same piece of coral, always seen his mother and father, always seen all of his little fish brothers. And, they have the predators of the reef that they don't go near, and they just live in their life, and it's very peaceful. But this fish, one day, when he's swimming with the school, decides to swim that way instead of continuing straight with the rest of the school. And the further he swims to his left, he sees no more reef and no more tiny little fish friends. He just sees a big blue vast ocean. He sees no ocean floor, he sees no surface, he just sees dark blue as far as he can see. No other life, nowhere for him to go back to. And in this void of being, he continues on swimming. And in spite despite the lack of life, he still continues on. There's no clear reason than to explore, because yes, as far as he can see now, it's empty, but what if he swims another 2 miles and then a huge new city emerges? And that's honestly kind of how I feel with life. I live in my community, I have my friends, I have my family members, and the people that I interact with on a daily basis or weekly or bi-weekly basis. And I live in this life, and I don't do anything else. And then I make decisions, or I go and experience new things that is completely out of the ordinary for me. And I am so overwhelmed by all the new experiences and all the new things that are, coming straight at my brain, and it doesn't understand what's happening. I see people living lives that I could have never imagined. I see people doing things I could never have imagined, and yet I still want to know more. I don't feel like I belong within the community that I'm in, but at the same time, going and exploring the world or going and exploring this vast blue ocean doesn't really make sense. And then I reflect back on what I'm doing in my daily life, and I ask myself, does this really make sense? And the answer is no. The answer is anything I could do doesn't make sense, because humans weren't born with a purpose. We don't have this whimsical tablet that's existed since the dawn of time, with the answers written on it. I mean, you could say religion, but obviously all religion is man-made. There's no clear 100% for certain this is right. There's nothing like that in the world. And to try to devote my life to something that I don't know is right, when I try to base my daily living in science, it really doesn't make sense, at least in my opinion. And often, as I'm looking at this vast blue ocean of possibilities, I kind of get lost, not lost in the ocean, but lost in my own head, because there's so many things that could happen that may, like, what if one day I'm walking across the street and I get hit by a car, and then I am paralyzed from the waist down the rest of my life, and I can never travel the world because of that? I would be devastated. I'd be upset beyond belief. And honestly, that would kind of defeat everything I'm living for right now. And if that one day did happen, I would still continue on, because I know just because an action happened to me, what's happening to you is how you make your meaning. You find meaning in what is being done to you. And I don't think there's any, you have to live your life like this. You have to wait to marriage to have sex. You have to never drink a sip of alcohol. You have to, never do any drugs. You have to be kind to your neighbor, not do any of that stuff, but just live how you want to and continue living on, in the moment. Don't obsess over the future and don't obsess over the past, because you can't change either of those things. You may be able to, narrowly steer your future and kind of guide it along, but realistically, you don't know what will happen. The best way that I have found to live is to live with the events that are coming directly at you. If you think about the concept of I, when you say I, you're referring to yourself. Well, you also say I when you said, oh yeah, yesterday I went to the beach, or tomorrow I am going to go on a walk. Well, if you fell off your bed in the middle of the night and broke your legs, you can't go on a walk tomorrow because you can't walk. So that I that you're talking about isn't yourself. But the I, when you're referring to the present, I am currently speaking to my phone. I am currently sitting in a chair. That is you. That's the only you can control. You can't control the past and you can't control the future. You may be able to, kind of put out an outline of what you may want in the future, but you really can't control it. So you gotta live with what's coming at you, and think about what you can do currently and what you can do to affect how you are currently living. If I'm sitting here in this chair after I finish recording this video and I decide to scroll on TikTok for the next 20 minutes, which I may likely do, that during that 20 minutes that I'm frying my dopamine receptors, I can make the decision to go take my laundry out of the dryer and put my sheets on my bed and put the sheets on my pillowcases and redo my comforter. But at the same time, I could also just sit there and continue to scroll on TikTok. It doesn't really matter. And that's the thing. In a life where nothing really matters, how do you keep on going? And I wish I could just say I knew. I don't. A lot of the times I feel stuck. I feel like Sisyphus pushing the boulder, but I'm making no grounds. Even though this boulder will never, even though I'm pushing this boulder up a mountain, and the mountain has no peak, there's no zenith, and I just don't know how to even progress up the mountain that's forever going. I just kind of feel stuck. But even when you feel stuck, you kind of just gotta keep on going, because even though Sisyphus knew that there was no way he could push the boulder over and stop, despite all the pain that pushing the boulder may have caused him, he knew that pushing the boulder was reparations for his actions. And if he were to stop pushing the boulder, then he was to, take not pity, but really look back at his action and be like, that's not what I live for. So tomorrow, if I decide to not continue living on, if I decide to kill myself, then I don't know what I just spent the last 16 years of my life living for. I just decided to die. I just decided that the last 16 years of my life I lived for no reason. But if I were to die by some unforeseen accident or illness, then that wouldn't be my fault, Living and letting life come at you, and making decisions off of that, and not, deciding just to end it all, or just to devote your life to something that you're not passionate about, is so much more meaningful than people really realize. And I don't really have that many thoughts today. It's pretty scrambled up there. But yeah, other than that, my eye is puffy because I got an allergic reaction to something. Don't know what. Yesterday was this eye and this eye. And today this eye just looks messed up. So if you're wondering, that's why. I go back to school tomorrow. Probably gonna pick out an outfit after I finish recording this video and do my laundry. Maybe not though. Maybe not. Might make a protein shake. That kind of sounds good right now. Yeah, and that's a wrap. Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Might upload again, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, wrapped up.